This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Coffee Fuel Store. Coffee Fitness Unicorn. Coffee Fitness Unicorn. Hello. I'm Coffee Fitness Unicorn, and you're listening to Coffee Chats Podcast, a show where storytelling and coffee hang out. Today is a special midweek announcement episode with Serena Lerner from the award-winning SkyTop Coffee Company. We have partnered together for a fun coffee/podcast collaboration. This episode is to introduce you to them and their products. There's more to come. Thank you for hanging out with me, your pocket DJ, in my virtual coffee shop. Go forth and be magical. Hello. I'm Coffee Fitness Unicorn, and you're listening to Coffee Chats Podcast, a show where storytelling and coffee hang out. Today's special guest is Serena Lerner from the award-winning SkyTop Coffee Company. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining and chatting with me today. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about SkyTop? Who is SkyTop? What is SkyTop all about? And then, of course, I want to talk about your awesome awards and all your fabulous accolades. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks. So SkyTop Coffee is a 100% USDA organic coffee roaster. We focus on single origin specialty organics, and we now have, I believe, 16 awards for our coffee. One of the reasons why we kind of focus on organics is we kind of have a motto around here, and it's basically like better for the planet, better for the farmer and better for you. The reason we chose to stick with organics is conventionally grown coffee is just one of the most pesticide-laden crops kind of in the market today. And just the use of like herbicides and fungicides, it really kind of proliferates the industry, and it's documented, actually really well documented, how bad it can be, not only for the environment, meaning the planet, but also for the people that actually live in those growing regions. So certified organic farmers don't actually use these products, and primarily they just kind of rely on the natural environment to grow their crops. So when we first started the company in 2018, we were focusing only 100% on organics, and we decided that moving forward, even opening the brick and mortar, that we were never going to stray from that segment. So we're only going to rely on 100% organic coffee. And so we work with a bunch of different importers across the country that focus mostly on bringing in organic coffees. So we tend to get a lot of our coffee from the West Coast, believe it or not. So they'll import from the coffee growing regions, and then we import, have it shipped to us.
Very cool. Thank you. And I love that how you explain all of that, because not everybody understands what it means when you say organic and organic coffee, what all that entails.
Yeah.
And then, so how did you get into coffee?
So my partner has actually been in the coffee industry for over 20 years in a professional capacity. And so I, through kind of a, osmosis and then all of these other ways, I've been around coffee in the expert level that he has, kind of brought to me over the years. And it was something that I always really loved and I've always really enjoyed. And I never really, as a younger person, understood all of the kind of art and science of coffee. But as an adult, I really started to get into drinking excellent, like specialty grade coffee. And it wasn't until I was actually introduced to this high level of roasting and these really, really beautiful origins that I was like, wow, coffee is so much more than I ever thought it could be. And so I started going down this path of certifications within the coffee industry and following the Special Coffee Association pathways and getting myself certified as, a level 2 barista and working within the industry. So over the years, I myself was doing sales and marketing in certain, retail and hospitality industries. And when we decided to start the brand in 2018, it was kind of like this natural progression of all of this, like a culmination of all of the information that we had learned. So we're like, roasting, we bought our sample roaster and we were roasting our coffee and we were sending our coffee into Coffee Review. We were selling it at farmers markets. And all of a sudden it was 2019 and we got named as one of the top 8 new North American roasters in the United States. And I was like, maybe we're onto something here. Maybe this is our new pathway forward. And so I just kind of took the reins and just started going with it and really just started hitting like everything I could do, every market. We said no to basically nothing. Anything somebody wanted us to do, we're like, yeah, we'll be there. And so we just kept saying yes to things and we got the name out there. And we live in this little town. It's called Manlius, New York. It's a suburb of Syracuse, New York. Most people will probably be aware of Syracuse, New York. And we live up the street from this little plaza. And in this little plaza, there was this bicycle store. And a friend of ours runs it. And he was getting ready to move out of his space. So we're like, hey, we were thinking about putting a coffee kiosk in your store. Would you be, willing to let us do that? And he said, well, I'm going to be moving to a new space. You should talk to the landlord and see if this is something you want to do. So we contacted the landlord and basically this is like the beginning of 2019. We see the space and my eyes are like vision. I can see it. I know what it's going to look like. I'm just like, oh, we're going to put the bar over here and we're going to have these lights and this tile. And I was just floored. My whole design brain is just like, oh my gosh, this is what we're going to do. So in the meantime, I was back in college to learn art and design so that I could keep designing for the brand. So I do all of the label design. So once we sign the lease and everything starts getting going, this is kind of like mid 2019, it's the beginning of the fall. And there's no pandemic yet. So we're going, we have construction happening. And all of a sudden this pandemic starts happening. And we're like, well, no, it's over there. We're fine. So it keeps on going. And we do our employee interviews in March. And if anybody knows anything about what happened to New York, we shut down the state like March 16th. And that was it. All restaurants shut down, everything shut down. And that was just kind of the end of it. So we're sitting here with this lease in this space that's almost complete going like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And as soon as the New York State let us open, we opened on May 9th of 2020. And we would just have bags of whole bean and somebody would order it online and we'd put their bag of whole bean in another bag and staple their receipt. And they would come in with like their mask on and they'd run in and they'd grab their bag and they'd run out because nobody really knew how COVID was spread and nobody really understood it. So there's plexiglass all over the place. We're not serving anybody any beverages. It's just like grab your whole beans and go. And eventually now we're going on our second year within this space. So May 9th, 2022 is going to be our 2-year anniversary. We've developed this really cool community space. I don't know if you can kind of see it a little bit behind me, but it's quite lovely and I love it. And it's a lot of hard work and a lot of long days, but I can't think of anything else I actually want to do. So this is it. This is the dream. So
Thank you for sharing the dream. And like I said, I love that story. Obviously when you were going through it and, experiencing everything, it was painful. And we felt so bad for you guys because, we've been following you for a while. And so we were so excited, that you guys were actually going to open up your shop. And we were like, all right, this is so, and then you're like, oh crap. But
yeah,
so to see,
it was kind of a bummer.
right? But you guys did really, and same thing, we followed you during the pandemic and you guys were making it work, and you were able to figure out how to still, produce the coffee. You had all of the beans, you guys were still roasting, you were still doing the work, and you were trying to figure out, okay, how can we still get this product out there? And you guys did it. You guys were crushing it even during the pandemic, even with your lease, the building like on pause, I should say, on pause. But so to see you sitting there now with your beautiful coffee shop behind you is like, it's so awesome. So this is so cool to have you here and to share your awesome story. And then so now, since you explained about coffee and how you got into coffee, my question to you is, how much coffee do you drink in a day? And what is your go-to coffee? Have you noticed how Coffee Fueled Stories doesn't have any ads? That's because I work tirelessly to keep this show alive. After 3 years on my own, I've decided I need to ask for your help. I've never asked anyone to subscribe. I've never asked anyone to leave a review. I've never asked anyone to rate the show. And I've never asked anyone to pay to listen. There are a few ways you can help support the show. I've created a Patreon page, Coffee Fueled Stories, and a subscription section on my podcast website. It's simple to support and help me keep my dream alive. Just click the link in the show notes to set up your paid subscription option. It's that easy. Thank you for your support.
Oh boy. Oh, how much do I drink in a day? It varies. It definitely varies. A normal day, right?
Yeah.
Typical normal day. Average day, not a cupping day, not a sample roasting day, not a, oh my gosh, I have to dial in every wholesaler's espresso machine day. We're looking at, I probably have like 16 ounces at home before I leave to go to the shop. And then I sample every coffee that we're brewing that day before it actually goes into a customer's hand. So then I also dial in the espresso machine in the morning. That's a very good question. It can vary. I will definitely probably have at least 3 to 4 shots of espresso during a day, 16 ounces of drip in the morning, and then probably like 4 to 8 ounces of more drip throughout the day, I would say. So yeah, it's a decent amount. I definitely have a cutoff though, because I have to be up so early and I'm in bed so early. I do have a caffeine cutoff. And if I did not have a caffeine cutoff during the day, I would have to take so much more melatonin than I actually do take. So my caffeine cutoff, I have like a hard cutoff at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
That's normally my hard cutoff. I don't normally have that 3 p.m. pick me up because I need to kind of, start winding down by about like 6 p.m. and hopefully be in bed at 8.
For sure. For sure.
That's the plan. It never really happens that way. I normally am in bed by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, but I try.
Hey, and that's all you can do, right? Is try.
True.
And so do you take your coffee a certain way, or do you drink it black?
I drink my coffee black. I drink all drip coffee black. There are times though, and I am, also kind of privy to all of these different, ways to have your coffee. And, we kind of experiment a lot because we have the ways and means at the shop to experiment. So I do have a real big favorite. Anywhere I go, I normally judge every coffee shop by their cortado. and I do a whole milk cortado because I really, really like that kind of equal parts of espresso shot with the milk. So that's really my go-to drink. But I am definitely known to have a sea salt caramel cappuccino in the morning here. And any of the baristas that know me here, they will definitely like make me a sea salt caramel cappuccino. There's just something about sea salt caramel and I can't get over it. I just really love it.
Totally. I love that you say that because it's kind of like my new favorite thing too. And I don't know, and maybe for you, so I grew up like dulce de leche.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
And so for me, they used to put dulce de leche.
Dulce de leche here, but nobody knew what it was. And so
right, so you have to call it
like,
caramel.
Come on.
Yeah. Dulce de leche. Yeah.
Like, dulce de leche is amazing. Come on.
It is. I know. I like I said, I remember the very first time I looked at my mom and I was like, hey, what do you think if I stick this in my coffee? And my mom's like, you're weird. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And so sure enough, I was like, oh, this is really good. You know, it's
milk and sugar.
Yeah. But yeah, so the salted caramel, that's definitely one of my favorite. Like we got caramel sauce and vanilla syrup. So we're now, and we have your coffee as well. So we can start making our own little, so Brandy obviously is the barista. I leave the baristaing to you guys. You guys are the experts. I'm the drinker. You guys make the drinks. So I love that you do have the salted caramel as a treat, right?
It is. It's my treat. That's pretty much the only thing I ever put in coffee. I don't actually put cream or sugar normally in coffee. If I'm making myself some sort of latte or cappuccino, it's first thing in the morning, or I'll make a cortado first thing in the morning. But other than that, it's just black espresso and black drip, and that's it. Because I have to taste I have to make sure that our roasts are correct and that we're on point, and that, when we're cupping this, that our flavor profiles are exactly what we're saying they are, on the bag. And, we have Q graders on staff. We have licensed Q graders. So these are coffee experts, and this is what they do for a living. They cup coffee. And, their palates are excellent and we're all calibrated. So when we sample roast a coffee to bring it in, we all basically have the same reaction without even having to look at each other. Nice. Because that's how in tune we are. And that's a really good thing to have, when you're trying to ascend to a certain level of coffee roaster. You really want your team to be on the same page. Because it's one thing to, purchase really great coffee. It's another thing to roast it really well. So you want to make sure that you have all of those bases covered, so that you can just give the customer and that end user just the best product that you can do. These farmers, they put their heart and their soul into growing this crop, and it's the most labor intensive crop. There's no machines that pick coffee. It's all done by hand. And it's grown on mountainsides, and it's tough to get to, and it's grueling, and they're out there in the elements, and they still have to bring it down the mountain. And, it's, we appreciate it like every day. And it's like, you have to kind of put that emotion into your coffee so that other people really see, like, it's not just coffee. It's so much more, so when you take the care every step of the way, I think the guests really do notice it.
Absolutely. And is everybody that works at the shop, or do they all have barista training? Like, have they all been to like barista school?
Some of them have. We do a lot of the on the job training here. So some of our staff we have a sensory expert who's had a SCA pathway through sensory. Our roaster is like a roaster level 2 through the SCA. We have a double certified licensed Q grader. We have a cup of excellence judge. So we have a lot of good people on staff, and our baristas are really, really great. We are over by this thing called the Manlius Swan Pond, and we have swans in this pond that's just literally right down the street. So one of the biggest things we do here is we pour swans as latte. Cool. And most everyone can do it. It can be very tricky, especially with, different alternative milks and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny when it fails, because, we all get a good laugh out of it, because you can't do it all the time perfectly. You know, sometimes you're in a rush. You're like, you're not getting a swan. You're like, you know, semi-heart, you know,
Totally.
but you know, you put the effort in, and I think people really appreciate that. It has to taste good. It can be pretty, but it's gotta taste good.
Totally, 100%. And I love that you say that, because I recall, you know, back in the 80s when I first started hanging out at coffee shops, they didn't have latte art. It was you went and you drank coffee at a coffee shop because they provided a product that you wanted. And for me, cappuccino, that's like my go-to. That's how I test a coffee shop, because same thing, it's espresso to milk to foam, right? And so, and then also when if I ask, you know, can I get a cappuccino? And they're like, you know, what size do you want? And I'm like, well, there's only one size.
Only one size.
That's 8 ounces. And so when they say what size would you like? I just go, you know what? Make that a 12-ounce latte. Just make it a latte, because I already know what the answer. If they have to ask me, I'm like, they don't have 8 ounces. So, you know, and I'm not asking it to be pretentious. It's just because it's my favorite drink. It's just like you said with the cortado. It's that perfect balance, you know, the espresso to milk to foam. But
I do cappuccino. I'm probably one of the only people in our store that really likes to do real cappuccino milk. Everybody else kind of pours like a flat white. Flat whites are very popular. And obviously, you know, the milk texture is just a little bit different. And, but I do like that you could stand a cookie in the cappuccino foam. Like that's my deal.
Oh my God.
Like I do the full like monk's cap and all of that. And I do a cappuccino like that. I don't put any latte art in my cappuccino.
No.
Cause I'm like, you're getting all of it. Like, this is what you're getting.
Yes. I love that you
do it like kind of the traditional Italian style of cappuccino. And you know, you're technically only supposed to have it in the morning. You know, you never have a cappuccino later in the day. So.
I know. I love that you say that too, because when I was in Rome and I would order a cappuccino in the afternoon, they would look at me. And then I'm like,
no, they won't make it.
I know. And then I'm like, okay, doppio espresso. Grazie mille.
And you're like, I shouldn't even ask for anything larger because I'm going to tell the baby. Because it's all the milk for the baby. Yeah,
totally.
No. Yeah, we don't coffee shame here. We don't coffee shame. You can get whatever you want. I'm going to hand you a gorgeous cup of espresso if you want, you know, doppio or whatever. If you want, you know, your latte, 20 ounces with like 6 syrups, you're going to get it.
I love it.
You're the guest. It is, you know, it's your preference. The coffee is the coffee that you love. It's, you know, I'm happy you're here to have our coffee. You can have it any way you want.
That is so awesome. And I'm so glad you said no coffee shaming, because that's like the worst. I went to, I don't think I told you the story. I know we talked the other day and we got to get to know each other, which is really cool. So I love that we're like having this, that we get to share our conversation with the unicornos, as I now lovingly refer to the listeners. And
that's awesome.
When I walked into Brandy's coffee shop when I was on business, I was like traumatized from the previous coffee shop that I had been to the weekend before in LA. And I asked for, because at the time soy was what because I can't have milk like dairy. And so I needed an alternative milk and this again was before almond milk and oat milk were like really popular. So soy was pretty much the only alternative milk. And so I asked the guy, I said, you know, can I get a soy cappuccino, please? And he literally goes, we don't have soy. And I was like, okay, I just got coffee shamed. Like, I'm so glad nobody else was here. And I was like, so embarrassed. And I was like, okay, can I please just have, and he was like, why don't I just get you an iced latte with almond milk? Sure. Okay. I felt like I was experiencing, what is it? Seinfeld, the soup Nazi. Except that this was like,
you're such a bother to this person. How dare you ask for a beverage?
So the fact that you're saying you have no coffee shame, if I want a 24-ounce coffee with 10 syrups in it, like, thank you for not doing that. Because when I went to her coffee shop, literally, I was like, do you have soy? Like, I was so intimidated. I was like, do you have soy? and that's not me. I want to be able to,
Yeah.
I want to be like, yeah, I want a soy cappuccino. Of course, now it's an oat milk, but there coffee shaming that's not, don't do that, man. That's not cool.
No, it's not cool.
It's
It's
not
really
cool.
not cool. That's how you lose business. We're at the end of the day, we're sharing the best coffee that we can bring in. And anybody can have it any way they want. I mean, it's literally a preference. We have had guests, which is very interesting. We actually have had guests that start out with cream, sugar, and a bunch of other things in their coffees. And we have now gotten them over the last year and a half of being open to having black coffee. They have, because what happens is a lot of times is people are used to having coffee a certain way because they have a certain type of coffee or they drink it at a certain establishment, and they're not used to, or maybe their palate isn't really in tune with some of the specialty grade, coffees or organics or, whatever we may be serving that day. And once they get used to the high quality of coffee, a lot of times they don't have to kind of doctor it up with a lot of sugars and creams and things of that nature. The flavor profile and the cupping notes just come right through. And now we've actually tuned in a lot of other people's palates. So when they go to other establishments, like they're ruined. Like they come in, they're like, you've ruined me. I can't drink coffee anywhere else. And it's a lovely thing to hear. I'm really sorry that we've ruined some people, from certain places, but I'll take it.
Right.
I mean, we're trying to change one palate at a time over here.
I love it.
We're working on it. We're working on it, and people are noticing, and it's been a lot of fun. And, they keep telling more people, and more people keep telling more people. And, hopefully we're here to stay for a long time. So.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you, so you had mentioned about SkyTop, the actual name, and you kind of mentioned about the specialty coffee and what makes specialty coffee. Would you share about SkyTop and how you guys came up with the name? And then that will lead us to your awesome mascot and a couple of the really cool things that you have, some of your merch.
Yeah, so SkyTop is actually a mountain biking quarry out here that we go mountain biking at. And it's really cool. A lot of people go out there and they, spray paint some really cool street art. And it's just a really kind of funky place. You can walk your dog back there, you can mountain bike. And it's over by kind of the university area out here. And one of the other reasons why we also call it SkyTop is, specialty grade coffee is grown what we consider to be kind of in the skytops. Now, obviously, to be called specialty grade coffee, it has to be grown at least 3,000 feet above sea level and be graded at least an 80 and above by licensed Q graders. So those are the parameters of being called specialty grade coffee. But SkyTop, it's cool. It's a really cool place, and we really want to be a cool coffee company. So it just kind of played in. Also, I know from my years in sales and marketing, 2-syllable words are always really fun. And when I started to look into designing the word mark, I was working with an artist in Romania. And he was like, let me actually hand draw this for you and see if you can read it. And so he hand drew it. So it didn't look like any other font out there. It's completely unique to us. And I took one look at it and I was like, this is the name. This is it. SkyTop, with a capital S and a capital T. And the way he made it flow with all these cool cusps and these really interesting kind of quirks to the penmanship. And I just fell in love with it. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is the name. So
I love it. And then Beansy, your caffeinaut, your mascot, yeah. Beansy the caffeinaut. He's so
Beansy's
cool.
really rad, actually. Beansy happened very organically when I was working with that artist. He was coming up with different kind of mascots. And I had gone back to school for art and design so that I could design all of our coffee labels. So our t-shirts, our coffee labels, our hats, things like that. I was so close to the project that I was stuttering on every design. I disliked everything I was coming up with. I couldn't figure out, what was going to make us kind of stand apart. And he came up with this concept of having kind of this, it was a man, and he had like blue jeans on and like a rolled up t-shirt, but he had these coffee balloons, and he had like a hat, normal hat, and he had these coffee balloons. And I'm like, I like this, but can we just do it in like line work? And he did a line work with the astronaut helmet. And I'm like, this is so cool. And at first, when he drew it, it was straight up and down. So I had it angled, so it actually looked like Beansy was taking off in the sky, holding on to these Arabica bean balloons. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at him. He's like an astronaut. And I'm like, caffeine. And I'm like, caffeinaut. He's a caffeinaut. And so my husband was just like, that's it. He's a caffeinaut. This is amazing. And I'm like, what are we going to call him? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, he's like, got beans. And we just kept throwing it back and forth. And so Beansy stuck. And so he is Beansy, our caffeinaut. One of our hashtags is Caffeinauts Unite. It's really important to us, right? It's really important to us to be this little quirky coffee company and, not take ourselves, so seriously. But Beansy's a nice little mascot. So he's really cool.
Beansy's awesome. And you had sent the coffee bags. We ordered some coffee, and when you sent it, it had Beansy on the back, and we didn't know about Beansy, and the two of us just lost our minds. We literally turned it over and we were like, that's the coolest thing ever. And then we said, that's so cool. Like, we were messaging and you're like, that's Beansy, the caffeinaut. We lost our minds again, because we were just like, and these guys you guys are definitely like the kind of coffee company that we love. You take yourself seriously with your product. Your product is amazing, but you also know how to be whimsical. And that is the beautiful balance about SkyTop.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's where this whole art and, comes into coffee. Coffee houses, coffee shops, the coffee community is so unique and so beautiful and so global. It's refreshing to be in an industry that has its pulse on so many socially responsible aspects of just humanity. And we really, really love being a part of this community. I wouldn't want it any other way. I love all of it. I love every little bit of what other people are doing. We follow other really cool coffee companies. We follow different baristas, and it's just so much fun. If anybody told me when I was growing up, oh, you're gonna, pour latte art, and you're gonna, one day have a coffee company, and you're just gonna talk about coffee all day long, and you're gonna develop all these things, and people are just gonna come to your shop and talk to you about it, I never would have believed them. I was like, no, I'm gonna get a corporate job, and we're just gonna be, sitting behind a desk somewhere. I did that too. So this is like my third act. I did that for like 20 something years. So
Totally.
I'm going to date myself, but this is like my third act.
No, and the beauty part about everybody's path is we can reboot ourselves. Like, I feel like I'm on my 10th rebooting of who I am and what I'm doing. And, like, the podcast would be part of that 10th reboot. So I love that you are able to, look back and think, gosh, I would have never in a million years realized that I'm here. But how freaking cool is that?
Right. I think as humans, we just have to keep growing. Yes. We have to keep challenging ourselves with new experiences and, kind of put ourselves out there. It's scary. It's really scary. It's scary to kind of step away from that comfort zone and be like, hey, we're going to go for this. It's like, you burn the boat, right? That's what they talk about. If you really want to dive right in, you got to burn the boat. And we burnt the boat. So we're in it now.
That's awesome. I love it. A couple of silly questions for you. So you mentioned about the swans for the latte art. Do you have a favorite latte art design that you like to do? And then also, do you guys do like the throwdowns, the latte art throwdowns at the shop?
So, favorite design, for me, I think it's probably the swan, just because of the swan ponds. It's really hard to do. It's very technical.
Yeah.
Also, the team has been working on the reflective swan, where you actually pour the reflection of the swan, and then the swan is facing its reflection. It's very cool. It's nothing like latte art competitions, right? Latte art competitions, especially worldwide, are amazing. You've probably seen people do unicorns and monkeys holding fruit and just these amazing technical things. We're not there, you know what I mean? But we have a lot of fun with it. Latte art throwdowns. For those, the coffee community here is a little bit smaller. We have thought about hosting some of these latte art throwdowns at our store now that COVID is really starting to lessen. In the beginning, we were really hyped up because we come from, different coffee culture down in the city, where there's a lot of camaraderie throughout the coffee brands and all of the baristas. And a lot of our friends down there host these huge latte art throwdowns. They're so much fun. There's like DJs and food and prizes, and you got to pay an entry fee, and everyone's just like, really hyped up. And we've yet to do that here. I know a couple of the local coffee companies have tried to do those, and sometimes they just kind of fall apart. I think we'll get there as a small coffee community. Right now, I don't know if we're there yet. Everybody has to kind of come together. And I think right now, a lot of people they're really hurting from the pandemic, and they're not feeling maybe in the way that, other people might be feeling about that. So I think we'll get there. I would love to host one here. I think it would be great. I think they're so much fun, and you get to know all your local coffee community people. And, it's a good way to pour some art and win some money and listen to some tunes and eat some cool food. So
absolutely. Well, we'll keep our eyes out for the latte art throwdowns and or caffeine crawls. Those are so much fun. Those are so cool. So I could totally see you guys hosting one, either or both.
Yeah,
that would be something that. So that's we're gonna put that into the universe. We're gonna say, all right. Yeah. All right, universe, like send it to them.
Yeah.
Send it to
them.
Our
mask requirements just came down. I think they actually just took mask requirements off from the local colleges here. So that's a big step. Nice. And for the longest time, you weren't able to really go anywhere without wearing a mask. And social distancing was still kind of a thing. So I think as people are starting to feel more comfortable with each other as kind of human beings, hopefully they can feel comfortable sharing the same space and, kind of being loud and boisterous and just kind of, doing everything that it's supposed to do. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And then here's one of my other favorite silly questions. If you were to describe yourself in 3 items at a grocery store, out of the whole store, and you were to put those 3 items on the conveyor belt to describe you, what would they be?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I can give you an example of how this came about.
This is actually really cool. This is a thinker.
It is. You really have to think about it. And for me, it was kind of like accidental. I went to the grocery store and I put down hot sauce, hand sanitizer, and coffee. And literally, I was told, you know what? That's you in a nutshell. And I looked and I was like, hot sauce, hand sanitizer. And this was pre-COVID. This was like 10 years ago. Like this is like my favorite little thing. And I was like, You know what? You're absolutely right. Hot sauce, coffee, and hand sanitizer would totally describe me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would probably be coffee, probably a sea salt caramel chocolate bar, and a mop. And I'm like, I'm not even kidding. I would definitely bring a mop, either a spray bottle, because these guys know how crazy I am about keeping our shop clean. I have kids that like crawl on the floor out here, and their parents are taking literally live reels of them being like, it's scary when your local coffee shop is cleaner than your home. And that's how I run it. It's a little bit militant. However, my OCD has found a home here. And
Yes.
The pandemic was probably one of those very odd things that was in my wheelhouse.
Yep.
Of just being like, oh, I can handle this, watch out.
Right. Sterilization. Oh, I got
it's
your
actually really
sterilization.
funny. We were laughing about when I went to the US Good Food Awards, when we got our US Good Food Award recently. One of my regulars is like, so what are you going to wear? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, definitely go with the apron and the spray bottle. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know me so well. You know me. She's like, you gonna wear your apron? I'm like, oh yeah. She's like, don't forget the vacuum, because no one's gonna recognize you without a vacuum in your hand.
That's awesome.
Okay. It's true though. It is. It's true. I'm a stickler for the cleanliness, but I think you have to be in food service.
Right.
In any sort of food service. People appreciate the cleanliness of the space. We actually have a lot of people that commented on that throughout the entire pandemic. It was one of the only places some people said they felt comfortable coming, was because of how serious we took the cleanliness of the space.
Thank you for saying that, because that's one of the things that, and SOPs, like standard operating procedures.
Oh, absolutely.
And right. I love SOPs. And that's one of the things that kind of frustrates me is, now that things are a bit more lax and people can go places, and like you said, we don't have masks and stuff. And I want to write SOPs for everybody at every place I go to, because I'm like, okay, that needs to be, if you don't feel clean, I'm like, I don't know if I want to eat here. Like, it just doesn't have a clean feeling to it. And yeah. I don't especially because there's a serious pandemic. It's not just, mildew. Like, this sure. is serious. And bleach is my best friend. I don't know about you, but I love bleach. The smell of bleach makes me happy. And there's no such thing as too much bleach.
Because we do a lot of organics, we have to use a lot of non-noxious, non-toxic products. So I really had to search high and low for good quality products that were actually going to kill all of these viruses, that also weren't going to, add a lot of odor to the space, because it, can be very overpowering. You don't want to overpower the coffee smell.
Right.
But also, you don't overpower your customers either. And all of our stuff, we can use without gloves, which is really great. So it's really non-toxic. Yeah, nice. But it kills everything. Yeah, yes. I had to search high and low for some of this stuff. And it was hard to get during the pandemic, and it was very expensive. I was breaking the bank a couple of times trying to get this stuff, but it was just so important to me. And it was important to our guests. And, being the new guys that we were, also, we want to make a really good impression. And you only have that one time, to make that really, really excellent first impression. Absolutely. And we always want to make sure we, hit it out of the park. Yeah. Because every guest that walks through this door, like, they deserve our best. They came to us over any other competitor. And I want to make sure that they walk away with like, wow, I was just blown away by this coffee shop. This is a coffee shop? Look at all the stuff they do. That's what I want people to think of, when they come here.
So cool. So are you going to do for your big 2-year? Do you guys have like a big celebration that you're like planning or working on?
I was definitely planning on something. We're gonna try and go a little over the top this year. Last year, things were still really strict. One of our guests brought us like a 1-year balloon, like you get for a baby. And, it was actually really funny. It's like awesome. A gold foil balloon, and it's it's enormous, right? It's like 4 feet tall. It was ridiculous. And it was fabulous because that's exactly what everybody needed on the team. Our anniversary at the shop is May 9th. But my husband and I, our anniversary is like May, I'm going to totally lose this, May 29th. Look at me, I'm forgetting my own anniversary. And we forgot our own anniversary this year because we were so wrapped up into everything. And my father-in-law walked in with a card and he handed it to me, and I'm helping a guest. And I look at him, I'm like, oh, hey, thanks. And I open it and it's like, happy anniversary. And I'm like, oh my God, it's my anniversary. And the guy in front of me is looking at me and he's like, oh, I've done that before. I was like, oh, this is great. We're sharing a moment right here. I have forgotten my own anniversary. And my in-laws had to remind me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yes, my plan is this year to not forget either anniversary. My plan is to actually do something really fun with a 2-year balloon. And we're going to probably do some really cool drink specials. We're also probably going to do some really cool merch. I have a good friend of mine that does some entertainment work. And he might come here and do a little DJing and a little comedy. I got to get the right permits, as they say. But I think it'll be really fun to just kind of, yuck it up.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Okay, so
it'll be a good time.
That's going to be awesome. May 9th.
Yeah, swans all day. That's what we're going to do. Swans all day.
I love it. So our anniversary is coming up. So we're going to celebrate your anniversary and our anniversary and my birthday. So basically the first few days of May are going to be freaking awesome. So I'm already excited. I'm like, bring it. Let's do this. We're going to be partying with you out here.
Nice. Very fun.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And I wanted to ask you, in addition to your Beansy, Bill Purry.
Oh, Bill Purry.
Tell us about Bill Purry. What is Bill Purry? What is the significance of Bill Purry? And then obviously I will link, I'll see if I can add a little photo so that our listeners will understand the significance of Bill Purry.
That was just one of my regulars who just walked by the window. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I was like, hi.
I'm literally like in a fishbowl out here. Like people are like, oh, hey, what are you still doing there? Bill Purry. Bill Purry was a stray cat that came by my house, and he was so vocal. And he, as quickly as he came into our lives, he went out of our lives. Somebody probably picked him up. He was just this really cute, very vocal, feral, not feral, I say semi-feral cat. And I was laughing. I was like, we're kind of naming him. And I'm like, oh, like we should call him Lenny. And my husband's like, no, he doesn't look like a Lenny. And I was like, oh, well, I'm like, he's like really loud and just kind of fun. I'm like, it's like Bill Murray, And one of my baristas was in the background and he's like, Bill Murray? He's like, you mean Bill Purry? And I'm like, no way. And so the whole thing stuck. And here I am. I got ideas. Like astronaut cats with helmets on. And I ended up finding some really beautiful stock work that we had bought from an artist and to utilize in a commercial way. And so we utilized their art in a commercial way on these really cool t-shirts. And I was like, I got to put something on this t-shirt. And I just keep thinking out taglines and everything like that. And I'm like, well, coffee's my universe. So why isn't it this cat's universe, right? So here it is, big cat on the front in an astronaut helmet, saying coffee is my universe. And it's like, Bill Purry. And that's it. I mean, it's a little kooky, but
I love it. When
it's like one of those things like you had to be there, but
no, because like when you were showing some of the t-shirts that when we were like messaging back and forth, and this was like way maybe a couple months ago, And I was mentioning, I was like, I still have like all your Beansy stickers. He's on my computer. And they were like, oh, we've got a new one. And I was like, what you got? And then you sent that image with Bill Purry. I just lost it. And especially the cat, the whole thing. And because we are coffee people and coffee is our universe.
Oh, absolutely.
And the kitty cat, I hang out, like my morning is not complete until I sit down with my coffee next to the kitty cat. That's how my day starts. So coffee and that cat are my universe. And so when I saw that, I was just like, I'm dead. You killed me.
Yeah. He was a good one. He's probably has some beautiful home now where he's just talking up a storm. So
that's so cool. That is so cool. So when you create your, do you do like, I guess you could call this like would you call this a limited edition design, Bill Purry? Would you say he's like a limited edition or?
Most likely, we've done one run of the t-shirts. We did a second run when the smalls and mediums kind of sold out. It's a really kind of fun design. I want to come up with a couple more to just kind of, get a little bit more into some seasonal trends and stuff like that. So he will probably be on a couple other t-shirts as well. Right now, we had started out with just kind of that, that basic black short sleeve t-shirt. I think everyone can kind of wrap their heads around, why most companies do that. And then you'll get into all the fun colors and things like that. So he might be an LTO. We're not completely 100% on that quite yet. It all depends. I wanted to put him on a baseball hat, so we'll see what happens there. We do have a local printing company out here and an embroiderer out here that can do a lot of really good work. They printed our t-shirts for us, and they're ready and willing to see what I have and see if they can provide it for me.
So cool. And like I'm always so surprised by your guys's design. And I know that everything is, like you said, it's your design. You come up with these images. It's not something that you really put your heart into. Again, you can tell everything you guys do, you put your heart into. It's not just something that is slapdash and just half-assed. And that's what I love. Every level of everything you guys do is 100% heart and soul.
Yeah. And we have a lot of experience kind of within, corporate markets and things of that nature, just because of how our careers were in the beginning, prior to opening the brick and mortar and starting the brand. And, we've always had kind of this saying in my family, and, my husband and I, is hope is not a strategy. You can't just hope that something will work. You have to have a plan in place, because hope is not a strategy. Oh, I hope people come into the store. No. How are you going to get them to come into the store? How are you going to execute that? Where are you going with this? What are you going to offer them? What are your draws? All of this type of stuff. And when you take a step back and you really, really think about what you're trying to do, and you look at your big picture and you start planning out, where you want to go, who you want to be, and who you really are and what you have to offer, you have to look at your differentiators, right? And if you can nail all of these little aspects of your plan, the rest is going to follow. But you can't just kind of be like, well, I hope they come. That's just, it's not a strategy.
It doesn't work. Oh, I cannot believe you said that. So when I was in corporate writing my SOPs and at the dental company that I worked for, that was the motto of the founder of the company. That was the first time I ever heard it. And I don't want to say like drilled that into your head, but it literally, that if you weren't on board with that, like you just weren't part of the company. And I completely 100% understand what you are saying. And it's a great idea. Yes, I hope this, right? We all need hope. Hope is great.
Sure,
it's not that it's bad. However, You have a business and you're trying to get somebody to do something, right? And you can't, like you said, you can't hope they come in. You have to do something to get them to come in, to get them to buy the coffee, to get them to come back to buy coffee and bring a friend, right? The whole thing, it's and I love that you say that, because that's kind of like my mentality for everything. You know, I could hope I got straight A's in grad school. Well, guess what?
Right.
You're not going to get straight A's unless you actually do the freaking work, right?
You gotta put in the work. I mean, there's
gotta do the work.
No shortcuts in this. There's really not. There's luck, sure. There's being in the right place at the right time, sure. It's all about the connections that you make, and it's all about the work that you put in. And if you're willing to invest the time and the energy and just kind of the bandwidth and the brain power, you're gonna make it work. But if you're just like, well, you know, I hope I can do this one day, or I hope I can do that one day, it's not a plan. It's not a plan. You got to have a plan.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why we actually did survive, through this pandemic, is I had a plan. I had a plan that no one was going to show up for the first 6 months that we were open. And I budgeted for it, because I was like, they're not even going to know who we are. No one's going to know. No one's going to come. And I budgeted for it. And sure enough, when we got shut down, I was like, well, there you go. It's a good thing we have this budget, because I can still make rent and I can still pay utilities and all of this stuff. And it worked out. You know, thankfully we weren't shut down for that long. It was just a pause, right?
Yep.
It was a pause for 2 months, 2.5 months, 3 months. And, you know, until we were fully operational. But that pause was key. I think, being the new guys on the block with not a lot of experience kind of within this brick and mortar space, having to run it, you know, kind of 24/7 ourselves in the beginning. Had we tried to execute every single piece of our plan, something would have fallen by the wayside, and we would not have been able to kind of execute each piece with excellence. Something would have had to give. And I'm happy that we had that pause. We were able to kind of reassess, take a step back and say, okay, what are the main pieces that we need to get right? And we just focused on those. And the rest is just kind of falling into place as we grow, as we get our name out there. So
very cool. That's so cool. I'm so happy that you guys are having your 2-year anniversary that's coming up. Like all of these big things, and then the awards that you guys, the Cup of Excellence, and then the
U.S. Good Food Award.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that? Do you have time?
So, absolutely. So, kind of one of our goals with being a company is, you know, kind of showing the world that organic coffee is the best and is the highest quality coffee on the planet. That's really like one of our goals. And we work to kind of source the highest quality organic specialty coffees that we can find and that our importers can bring in. And we've been nationally recognized for our excellence within the coffee industry. So we are a U.S. Good Food Foundation 2022 winner. We won with our organic Finca Santa Maria coffee from Hacienda La Pradera in Colombia. We also were named, like I think I had mentioned before, one of the top 8 new roasters in North America in 2019.
Woo-woo. In
2020, we had one of the top 30 coffees of the year. And that was one of our Peruvian coffees, Cajamarca. That was really cool. That was done by Coffee Review. They, I don't know if you're familiar with Coffee Review, but if you're ever looking for really high quality, high graded coffees, Coffee Review is a third-party independent entity that cups and grades coffees that are sent into them by coffee companies. And they assess them blindly, they blind cup them, and they assess scores to them. Now, having Q graders on staff and being Q graders and stuff like that, we can cup our own and score our own coffees. But it doesn't matter if you say you're not going to put any bias in it. You have an innate bias to make your coffee the best. So we don't do that here. We cup coffees to bring them in. We send them off to other people to cup them professionally, to score our coffees for us. We feel that that is the only way that that playing field will be leveled for us. And that's the only true assessment of the coffees that we're roasting. So we have 15 coffees over the course of the last 4 years that have scored 90 and above. We have 6 coffees that have scored 94 or higher. And that's really, really cool. We're a Cup of Excellence. So we're an Alliance for Coffee Excellence, Cup of Excellence member since 2019. One of the people that's here is a Cup of Excellence judge. So that's really cool. They get to travel the world and go cup coffees professionally for countries. We've won coffees from the Cup of Excellence competition. So we won a coffee from Peru in 2020, and we just won a coffee at auction in 2021 that was delivered not too long ago. So we're going to be roasting that pretty soon and getting that into the marketplace. So it's really cool. You know, we're really grateful to everybody that's following us and that's drinking our coffee and realizing, you know, it's some of the best coffee that they've ever had. And we keep raising the bar, and we keep trying to just do everything in our power to keep this going, to keep finding, you know, the best organics that we can find, and to partner with these beautiful farms and these beautiful farmers, and just, you know, making sure that we can get it out to the guests that really want to enjoy it.
Very cool. Do you guys ship worldwide, or are you strictly US right now?
Currently, we're US and the islands. We do ship to Canada because it's our neighbor in the north.
Right.
We are in upstate New York, central New York State. So we're not too far from Canada. So we definitely ship to Canada. We haven't gotten into international shipping currently. It's not that we won't. The way customs works and sometimes sending food products can be a little bit tricky, but we are absolutely open to it. It's definitely something that will be heading into the pipeline in the future. Right now, we're just shipping US and the islands and Canada.
Very cool.
We're actually, we ship to certain areas of the country who then ship to family members of theirs internationally. So we have a couple of diehard SkyTop people. Apparently we're big in Thailand. So we have some real good diehard SkyTop people in Thailand. So we ship our coffee out to California, and they ship it to their family in Thailand.
How cool is that?
That
is so
cool. And they take videos of the coffee, and they like do reels and stories, and they do like really kind of artsy photos with our coffee in Thailand. It's just, it's so cool, right? It's just, coffee is one of those things. It's very personal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Coffee is one of the most personal things. Everybody will tell you how they take their coffee.
Yeah.
It's one of the most personal things we talk about. So to have people like share our coffee with other people around the world is just really, really cool.
That's so cool. And that's how the podcast came about. It's because coffee connects us. Like we're East, or you're East Coast and we're West Coast. If we didn't have this coffee connection, we wouldn't be talking right now. And so the fact that we are able to talk, especially virtually now, you got to love technology.
Oh, I do.
And it's over coffee, and we're very passionate about it. And especially you with all of your knowledge within the industry. So the fact that you're able to share and tell about your product, and how you can tell your heart and soul is in the product, and that it connects you even more. So it's almost like there's like 10 different layers of how we're able to connect, you know? I love it. True. There's so many layers.
It's so great too, because we have such a good team of people and professionals here that have the same amount of interest and passion and knowledge. And we all just keep learning more and more and more, because in this industry, and I think in most industries, you're never done learning. There's always something new. There's cool stuff happening all the time. all sorts of experimental fermentation processes, anaerobic. We just recently cupped a coffee from another company that won a US Good Food Award, and they did this really rad, like pineapple fermentation. I mean, so unique, so cool, like just really, really interesting. And we loved it. And you learn from each other and you support each other. And, coffee is one of those crops that I don't ever want to see go away. So if we all need to kind of collectively think about that, because it's in danger. There's a lot of climate that's affecting these coffee growing regions, and we have to get really serious about addressing it and not greenwashing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. For sure. 100%. I love it. Serena, this has been truly, truly awesome. And I thank you so much for hanging out and sharing your passion for coffee. I can't thank you enough. I can't think, like I told you, before we started recording, I was like nervous and giddy to like talk with you. I've been like, and I was kind of practicing and I kept thinking, I was like, okay, like just go with it, just flow with it. Like, let her do all of these, like, let you tell us about your world. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your passion and your world with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun and really cool. And I hope that, everybody out there just goes to like their local coffee shop and is like, you guys are the best. And it just like runs up and it's like, I want to talk about coffee now. And I want to talk about processes and, extractions and like, let's get weird. let's talk about some science with some coffee and let's connect, right? Let's
absolutely
connect. Because if that starts the conversation, then maybe there's more conversations that we can have as human beings and maybe everything will get a little bit better. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's plan.
Yes. So I'm gonna sign us off, or actually, how about you? My little tagline is "Go forth and be magical." How about you send us off with a go forth?
All right. So everybody listening, go forth and be magical.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I'll cut. I'm still recording us right now. So I'll go ahead and end the show with that. But I'm actually going to go ahead and stop it right now, but I want to stay on with you for a few more minutes, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm gonna sign us off, or actually, how about you? My little tagline is "Go forth and be magical." How about you send us off with a go forth?
All right. So everybody listening, go forth and be magical.